Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants this morning because I'm ready to get outside and I've already had some other things I got done. I made sourdough bread. I'm trying to dry some mint. I got that out of the way, but I've cleaned my countertop off enough where at least I can show you something. My name's Tanya, and let's get started with some chocolate bread pudding. This is a recipe that I developed a few years ago, and I couldn't have been more excited the way it turned out. Now, just throwing things together with whatever I thought went in there. I'm not a bread pudding expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I've never had a chocolate bread pudding. I've had the kind that has cinnamon and raisins in it, and I love that. But I just thought, you know what, take it over the top and do some chocolate, and it turned out so good. So right now, I've been baking sourdough bread at 450 degrees, and my oven's cooling off a bit, so I put my bowl of chocolate chunks in there. These are really dark chocolate chunks, real high quality, and they are just slowly melting. I have 10 ounces of chocolate chunks in there. Now, this recipe is going to have sugar in it because it has the chocolate chips in it, but it's not going to have as much sugar as what I normally actually make because I'm replacing the half cup of sugar I normally use with about a half cup of honey. So if you want to use sugar, feel free to do that. I just feel better about using honey. So let's get started. And the first thing we want to do is break a couple of eggs in our mixing bowl. We're going to get those beat up. I'm hoping I don't have to wait too long for my oven to preheat now that it's so hot in there, but the chocolate chips are cooling it down just a bit. So we're going to beat these eggs a little bit. And dish out some honey. I was watching some cooking show the other day and somebody said something about their spatula. I'm like, spatula as in like singular? How do you do that with one spatula? I bet I use at least 3 spatulas no matter what I make. It's crazy the amount of spatulas you need. Okay, so just eyeballing this. This doesn't have to be exact because, like I said, I'm the one that developed the recipe, so this is not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination. This is really good, served hot, of course, fresh out of the oven, but bake it ahead of time and then just reheat it to serve to guests or whoever you're serving it to. But this is actually one of those few desserts that I think it's just as good at room temperature, and I can't explain that because I like pumpkin pie when it's hot. I don't want it when it's cold. I like chocolate pie when it's hot. I'm not a big fan of it when it's cold, but hey, it's chocolate, so just do what you do to help society. But this recipe is just different, and again, I can't explain it unless it's kind of like that cinnamon roll theory where it doesn't matter what the temperature is, it's still going to be just as good. So, and I apologize ahead of time for my washing machine going in the background, but it's just going to town, and it's supposed to be so hot today. It's supposed to be over 100. I think it's supposed to be about 102 here today. So I'm trying to get all my baking and stuff done and my laundry done that uses hot water early in the morning, so it's not just stifling in the afternoon and having to fight with our air conditioner. All right, so we have our honey and our eggs in here. And to this, we're going to add a half a cup of heavy cream. Now, I went ahead and measured this out, and the only reason I didn't just show me getting out of the refrigerator on camera is because it's in the refrigerator in the garage, and I'll explain that. I've had day camp this past week, and my refrigerator is packed with stuff that we just had left over, just odds and ends of things like organic veggies that we use to dip in ranch dip. And if you don't think 2nd through 6th graders love ranch dip with veggies, give it a try. They go nuts over it, but they ate a lot, but we still had a lot left because I'd rather have too much and have leftovers than not have enough and have some kid going, well, I wanted more, and then not being able to offer them more. So anyway, all that being said, my refrigerator is so full, I couldn't even fit the little quart container of heavy cream in my refrigerator. So I took it back out to the garage. That's why I had it measured out ahead of time and just sitting here. Okay, to this, we're gonna add a cup of buttermilk. Now the reason for the buttermilk, I know a lot of people say, I don't even buy buttermilk, but I don't really understand that because I'm from the South and we always have buttermilk. But the buttermilk gives it that tanginess that you're just not gonna get from a regular milk product. You could try sour cream, it's about the same effect, I guess, but buttermilk just has a personality of its own. And this recipe benefits greatly from it. Now the other good thing about this recipe is if you have bread that's just gone stale, but not really gone bad, it's not molded or, you know, just something to compromise your health, then this is a good way to use up those leftover bread pieces. I have several things I have here that I had in the refrigerator thinking, well, I'll use it for something. And that's actually why I'm doing the recipe, because I had the bread and I thought, hey, I've never done a chocolate bread pudding video, so this is the time to do it. All right, let's set our buttermilk aside that we've used that. Next thing is a half a cup of half and half. Now, I don't have any half and half in the refrigerator right now. I just didn't buy any, so hang tight. I'm gonna get the gallon of milk and we're just gonna use milk in it. So if you have evaporated milk that comes in a can, that's fine to use. If you have half and half, that's fine to use. Or if you just want to use milk, that's fine. Gonna get about a half cup of that. Again, not rocket scientist. You're just adding this liquid so your bread and your eggs will get, the milk and the eggs get absorbed into the bread, and it's going to make it mushy, and therefore it's going to have that pudding consistency. So just enough liquid to where you think, oh, no, it's too runny, but then after the bread absorbs it, it's perfect. I think I looked up the history on bread pudding one time, and it was just a matter of people back in the day. I mean, you put that much effort into making bread, you don't want it to go to waste. And there were no preservatives back then to speak of. That must have been a dream come true. But you ate the bread then, or it was just kind of hard, and you had a few choices after that. But somebody got ingenious and thought, hey, why don't we just add some sweetness to this, make a pudding out of it. Now, there are savory bread puddings that I've heard are really good. I've never tried them before, but this one is better, I promise. All right, to this we're gonna add some vanilla, and my recipe that I wrote down calls for 2 tablespoons. So we're gonna be generous with it. I don't know if I'm gonna be that generous with it, but this is my jar that I have my homemade vanilla in. And I want to show you this jar. I don't know that I've ever shown this jar on campus now, or on camera, but it doesn't normally have a pipe clamp on it. But I have one on there because the wood on the top of it had a split in it, and I bought several of them, and the others I gave as gifts, but I kept the one that had the split in it just because it's for me. But put that on there so it wouldn't split anymore. But this is called Ocean Organic Vodka, and it is made from sugar cane, and it comes from Hawaii, and it is delightful. I'm not a drinker at all. I don't really see the purpose in it, but in cooking there serves a purpose because the alcohol is not considered a liquid, and it doesn't it just doesn't water down things like a water would. So anyway, it's beneficial in cooking, and it draws out all that flavor from the vanilla beans. It has, I don't know, I think I may have put 10 vanilla beans in that little amount of vodka, and it's lasted me quite a while, but I still have several in back stock too, so never run out of vanilla. So we have our vanilla in here, and that smells absolutely wonderful. And to this, we're going to add 5 cups of dry breadcrumbs. Now, I want you to see this bread. These are just crescent rolls that I made. These are all homemade, so I know what they're made of. It has just organic flour and honey. It's sweetened with honey. Some of them have potato flakes and organic potato flakes in them to make the bread softer. That's just a dinner roll. So I have these. Let's see how many cups these make when I cut them up into pieces. And they're not soft enough to where they fall under the pressure of the knife, so that's kind of nice. But you're going to cut them up into cubes. I would say the size of a big dice, or about half the size of a regular marshmallow. I don't have number measurements here, but just cut them up in chunks where they're not so big that the liquid has a hard time getting to the center of it while it's baking. But you're not going to pulverize it by any stretch of the imagination. You're just going to cut it in chunks. I think I've used that phrase, stretch of the imagination, enough already. I don't know why that's stuck in my head today. Okay, I may have more than 5 cups just right here. That's a 4-cup measuring bowl right there. So, and if you have too many breadcrumbs, it's just not going to be as moist as it would if you were to use just 5 cups. But if you have leftover sourdough, this really is good with sourdough. Now, I've used exclusively just sourdough bread in this, and it is absolutely over the top phenomenal. But I went out to the freezer just in case I didn't have enough bread by using these rolls. I went out and got these breadcrumbs. I keep these in the freezer. Anytime I have sourdough bread that's just too much, I need to make another loaf and put it in the fridge, and I don't have enough room for that. I never throw things away. I mean, every once in a while I'll throw something out to the birds, maybe, but normally the dogs and the raccoons and the chipmunks get it. But these are the sourdough bread cubes. I will call them cubes, not crumbs. Bread cubes that I keep in my freezer just in case we need them for something. I'll use them for dressing if I make chicken and dressing, or like this bread pudding. They're perfect for that. But any kind of bread you had, leftover hamburger buns, hot dog buns, if you make homemade bread, this is the perfect way to use that up. Okay, I think that is enough bread just by using that. Maybe I'll throw a few sourdough cubes in there just because it's so good. And these, I'll show you how hard these are. That sounds like wooden blocks in there. I mean, they're really hard. Okay, a few of those, and then we'll put the rest of these in here. So no need for a mixer. If you want to get a mixer out and mix up your eggs and stuff, that's fine, but there is no need for that. Just a spatula and a bowl. And that works perfectly. All right, let me put all these aside. I'm going to get my chocolate out of the oven, and that bowl is probably pretty warm. And now at that point, I can turn my oven on 325 just to make sure it's the right temperature when I'm ready to start baking those. Ooh, that bowl is hot. All right, we'll get our spatula that we used to get the honey out with. Give that a stir. I'm going to try to turn this in a way where you can see it. I'm pretty hopelessly right-handed, so this is backwards for me. Just going to pour it in there, and then it's going to cool off as it hits the ingredients, but we're going to stir it up to give it a marbling effect. Y'all know I can't leave all that little bit in there. If you've watched this channel any at all, I can't leave anything in the bowl. It's just too much of a temptation to clean it out. All right, we're going to stir this and marble it. Try to turn it sideways. Now, don't just rigorously stir it, but you're just going to toss it around. Just a little bit. You can see it cooling off and kind of clumping together. We'll let it sit there. That liquid is absorbing, or the breadcrumbs are being absorbed. Let me start all over. The liquid is being absorbed into the breadcrumbs. Apparently, I can't move a dish and talk about the breadcrumbs all at the same time. Okay, here's how we butter a dish. Get your stick of butter, rub it around. Use the corners to get in the edges, and then use your warm hands to get it down in there. This doesn't take just a lot of coating. You're not going to have to flour it or anything like that. It just makes it come out a little bit easier. And of course, rub the butter into your hands to make them soft. All right. We're ready to pour this into our bowl. Again, I'll try to turn this toward you so you can see it. When this cooks, it'll cook those eggs and of course the milk and all that stuff, but it'll mix in with the doughy part of the bread cubes and just make the most lovely pudding. But when you get those bites of chocolate, ooh, it's just so delightful. All right, and my oven is, of course, preheated because it was so hot earlier. So we're going to pop this in the oven, and this is going to bake for about 40 minutes. So in about 35, I'm going to come in and check it. I'll have to reheat it again tomorrow because we're going to have lunch guests over, probably. I'm going to ask them to come over. And I'll be reheating this again, so we'll add that cooking time to it. So subtract from today's cooking. It's not going to be runny or anything like that, but again, we still have to cook it again tomorrow to reheat it. So we'll come back in a bit, check that, and let you take a look at it. Okay, our timer is just about to go off in about less than a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and get this out. All right, I just want you to get a look at that. I hope I'm getting a picture of this. I hope I'm getting it where you can see it. Oh my goodness, this smells so good. This, along with brownies, is my kryptonite. I'm not even kidding. So, if you have some old bread that is stale enough to where you're not going to make anything with it as far as use it for dinner rolls or make a sandwich or, heaven forbid, just toast it. Cut it up, set it aside, keep it in the fridge where it won't mold or go bad as quickly, and let it dry out. You can let it toast in the oven if you want to, but use those bread cubes in something like this. The only thing you don't want is something that has, like, you know, onions in it or something savory or a mustard flavor or anything like that that you would make a savory bread with. But anything sweet, you can even use cinnamon rolls in this if you wanted to, just leftover ones. Heaven forbid, if you've got leftover donuts, somebody spare me all the sugar. But that's not uncommon to use something like that in this too. Any kind of bread product is just going to make those eggs form that pudding, and that's what makes this so good and so delightful. So I hope you enjoy this. I look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Have a good week.